Health and Fitness with David Hollywood with the all-new Midlands Park Health and Fitness Club, midlandsparkhotel.com. Midlands 103.
Hello one and all, and welcome to the programme. Let's have a look at what we've got for you this week. We're about to platform the MS community ahead of World MS Day on Thursday, May 30th. There's over 10,000 people living with multiple sclerosis in Ireland. We talk about how MS Ireland works to help those with the condition thrive in their lives. It's cherished for its restorative powers, its ability to nourish the soul, and for the deeply individual experiences held by all who make their journey. Former Offaly goalkeeper Laz Malloy is just back from walking the Camino and is in studio this evening. And the town of Ballyforan can now boast having the first ever Waco kickboxing world champion from Ireland. You'll meet the man behind the achievement on this week's show. Someone somewhere in the world is diagnosed with MS, multiple sclerosis, every 5 minutes. There are over 10,000 people living with MS in Ireland and just under 3 million people globally. MS Day comes up on the 30th of May. There's a number of events in the country that are designed to raise awareness about what is a complex neurological disorder. And I'm very glad to say, joining us on Health and Fitness this evening, two people live in studio, Mary Leonard, community worker for MS Ireland in the Midlands. Mary, thanks for coming in to us. And from Tubber, Majella Heaven, who's part of the MS community in Ireland. Majella, thanks so much for coming into us as well.
Thanks very much for inviting me, David.
Not at all. Mary, I'm going to start with yourself as the community worker for MS Ireland in the region. From your perspective, MS Day coming up, why is it important and what do MS Ireland hope to get out of it?
Well, MS Day, I suppose, it's a worldwide event. It's a global event, David. And the main purpose of it really is it's an opportunity to raise awareness. So here in Ireland, the MS Society uses it, to raise awareness about the condition. And even though it's a very, I suppose it's one of the most common neurological conditions amongst that younger age cohort. I suppose unless it comes to somebody's own doorstep, they don't actually know about it. So this is an ideal opportunity for us to do that, to raise awareness. So nationally there are some events that are taking place, and then we also have some events happening more locally as well.
Yeah, we can get into the details of what's coming up over the course of the week and on the day itself shortly. Just in terms of some of the information we can bring to our listeners now so that they have a more fundamental understanding about this. And the thing that always surprises me is, considering all of the development and intellect and investment in medical technology and knowledge, we still struggle to know how and where MS comes from and why some people have it and some people don't.
Yeah. And it is complex in that regard, and a lot of research has obviously gone into, maybe finding out what causes it. So we still are not fully sure of the cause. It's considered now maybe to be more genetic and environmental factors that are at play there. But the main thing is, I suppose, to remember for people when they're diagnosed is that there are treatments now. And up to maybe 15, 20 years ago, treatments were very, very limited. And it's all about maybe encouraging people to manage their condition. So there is no cure, but most people can live a normal life with MS, maybe making some smaller adjustments here and there as they go. And we always encourage people to take a positive attitude. So most people now, when they are diagnosed with MS, they are actually encouraged to go on some of the treatments, and there's a choice of treatments, from tablet form to injections to infusions. So people are generally guided by their neurologist in that regard.
Yeah, and important as we are talking about the condition in a bid to raise awareness about it, I think one of the few things most people know about it is that it doesn't have a cure necessarily, but what maybe people don't realise is just how normal a life people tend to live when they do have it. Majella, from your perspective, you've got multiple sclerosis. What's the nature of your MS? What's the actual classification of it?
I would have relapsing and remitting MS.
Okay. And Mary said, there's treatments out there, so you're on a treatment as well, are you?
Yeah, and I've gone through a number of different treatments over the last 10, 12 years since I was diagnosed. And currently I'm on an immunosuppressant, which would lower your immune system so as your system doesn't attack your body.
And that's what MS ultimately does
Yeah,
do.
and it's usually on the nerves and things like that. But people's symptoms are all very individual and very different.
How did you initially find out that something was going on with you? How did the first symptom present itself?
My first symptom felt like sitting against a damp towel or a damp something on a chair. And it came and went for a couple of months, and I mentioned it to the GP. And the GP was very, very quick to know that there was something more than just, she just felt I should investigate further. And I did. And she said, do you want to go to Dublin or Galway? And I said, sure, I'll go to Galway. The shopping is grand that side. So that's why I chose that direction. And I'm very happy with the public service that I do receive.
Okay, what did you learn along the way then? You go from having this symptom, your GP directs you to get it looked into further. What followed from that point on?
From that point on, then I would have been sent for an MRI and scan, and I was referred to a neurologist, and the neurologist in Galway, he organised the MRI initially, and then they read it, and very, very quickly they came back to me with an urgent follow-up, and they had found some lesions on the brain, and when I heard lesions on the brain, I was like, holy Moses, what's going on, and panic stations. But really, once I spoke to them, they reassured me that, a lesion on your brain per decade of your life is quite normal.
Okay, that's a very interesting expression or way of understanding this, that is not as fundamentally frightening as it sounds.
As that lesion word, yeah.
Exactly, that's it, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. But I had more lesions than my chronological age. So that's why he wanted me then to try some treatment. And as previously mentioned, he felt that it might have been a once-off incident, which would be known as clinically isolated syndrome, but symptoms developed in the future after that, after a number of years.
Yeah.
So then my diagnosis would have changed then to MS.
And relapsing, remitting MS.
Remitting, yeah.
And that's been the nature of it since. Do you get regular checks and that type of thing?
Yeah, I do. And initially when I was diagnosed, I would have been checked maybe a bit more regularly because they were trying to find out and to compare and contrast, because they treat symptoms, not disease. Because as you've said, there's no cure as yet. But it's the treatment of symptoms. So, yeah, I would have been checked a lot more frequently. But when I began to manage my own label, because that's what it is, or another string in my bow, but I managed to try and control things and cope with things. So, yeah, it's been an adventure. Well, I've met lots and lots of amazing people through having MS.
How do you meet people through having MS? What kind of ways and places?
Well, apart from Mary keeping ringing me to say, will you have a chat?
Good on Mary. I'm actually going to I'm going to ask you, Mary, shortly about that side of your work in a moment. But you can attest to that MS Ireland are good at reaching out to people and putting them together.
And yeah, very much so. But also destigmatising labels. And, it's to open your eyes and see that, we're all different, and it doesn't matter if it's MS you've got as a label, or it's asthma, or it's depression. We've all got something. And
we're all living with something.
We all have to cope, and if we don't cope, the options aren't as good. So we have to just cope, and that's it.
And coping is significantly easier when you're sharing problems with people and you're not
like-minded,
holding it in.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I would do as my job as well. That's the type of things I do as well. So I teach as well. Okay. I'm a nurse as well. So.
Okay, you can relate to a lot of this then, and you can see the kind of humane benefit of the networking.
It's the mental health side of things that I work in. So even though I don't want to know the physiological side of it, It's the future. It's today and tomorrow and the future. That's what's important, because we can't change the past.
The human condition is such that when we get a startling piece of news like that, we're just motivated to make a big change because we feel like that's a solution approach or something like that. But as you've underlined there might be very little that needs to be done, be it in the short term, medium term or long term, to live with this.
Yeah, that's right. And nowadays, especially, most employers are happy to accommodate people, to stay at work with their MS. And so we encourage people not to go making any big changes in their lives. And then very often people get on, with their lives. We may not hear from them as an organisation. They're getting on with things, and we're very happy with that. They know we're there if needs be, and if they need us. But also not just for the person who's diagnosed, but I also feel that for their family members, maybe spouse, partner, that can raise a lot of anxieties also and questions. So we're there also to, support people. And very often I find that maybe a spouse or a partner or a family member is reluctant to raise their fears with the person diagnosed because they don't want to add to their anxieties, So sometimes if I'm visiting people in their homes, somebody might escort me to the car, and it's at that point at the car that they might raise their concerns.
And you'd recognise these patterns. There's a human instinct to do things in a similar way with everybody.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, we're going to find out what's going on locally and across the country for MS Day, and we'll be back very shortly here on Health and Fitness.
Health and Fitness with the all-new Midlands Park Health and Fitness Club, with fitness classes to suit everyone. Experience the warmth at 30 degrees in our dedicated spin studio. Discover all this and more on midlandsparkhotel.com.
Midlands 103.
MS Day is on the 30th of May, and it's a great opportunity to underline and raise awareness around the issue, its treatment, those who live with it and those who live to support those who live with it. Some really surprising information that always comes out when we do these awareness pieces. One or two facts I wasn't aware of. Women are disproportionately affected by MS, more so than men, at a ratio of approximately 3-1, which is remarkable. Also, MS is more common in countries that are further from the equator, which underlines Mary Leonard's points about it being environmental as well as potentially genetic, but ultimately we have no certainty about what causes MS. Mary Leonard is a community worker for MS Ireland in the Midlands. Magella Heaven from Tubber is part of the multiple sclerosis community in this country. We are looking forward to what's happening across MS Day and I suppose the days around the 30th of May. Mary, you might talk to us about any of the highlights that you are looking forward to just after I let people know how they can get in touch with MS Ireland if anything that they're listening to this evening means that they would like to reach out. You can email them at midlands@ms-society.ie. That is, email midlands@ms-society.ie, and the website is ms-society.ie. The phone line is 090 647 1137 for the Midlands Regional Office. Mary, the events that are coming up over the course of the next week or so, talk to us about what's happening. Yeah,
so there's some quite exciting events happening nationally and then also some local things as well going on, David. So there's an annual coffee morning. This is every year to celebrate World MS Day in the MS Care Centre, which is the only, I suppose, dedicated respite centre for people with MS in Dublin. It's in Bushy Park. So World MS Day, they have a coffee morning there, which is usually a very nice event and very
big turnout, I imagine.
A good turnout and very well attended. Yeah.
Okay.
And then also there is an event in Leinster House. There was a survey done recently, My MS, My Needs survey amongst the MS population, and the launch of the results of that survey is taking place in Leinster House, and I think that's the 29th, but the information is on the dates are actually on the website. On Tuesday evening here in Tullamore we have an information event, and we have a dietitian coming to talk, and everybody's being invited to that from County Offaly to attend that at 7:30 that evening. And next Monday evening we have it's an online kind of Zoom meeting for anybody over within the 4 counties in the Midlands who wants to link in, and it's really just to make that connection, just to have a chat and to make that connection with other people. So that's something that we do from our own office regionally every year as well.
Very good. There's loads going on. Were you about to add on to something there?
No, I think that was I think that was
comprehensive
the main thing.
List. Majella, it's a great number of events that Mary just ran through there. Will you be going to anything yourself?
I'm hoping to go and get to chat to a few people with the dietitian talk in the Charleville Centre next Tuesday evening at 7:30.
Very good.
Maybe the best bit of that is Mary's going to bring buns.
Right, and is Mary renowned for her bun making?
Well, we're going to test it.
Dead right. Well, I hope to hear back about these buns. But seriously, on the diet point, the MS community in Ireland, it seems there's an awareness that diet can be an important factor in how symptoms might present. Again, nothing's ever crystal clear when it comes to this thing, but be it with MS or how we live our lives generally, diet's important. Yeah,
overall diet's important, as is sleep, as is socialising, as is support, as is, having a positive outlook, which is Mary's focus on that always, is your positive attitude. For me, I know that if I look after myself from doing exercise to fresh air, sunlight, and, once I get all those things and I know I have the basics right, then I can deal with nearly anything that comes my way. Of course, there's going to be times where I'm going to lie down or I'm going to be tired or irritable. You wouldn't believe it to look at me, but sometimes I can be irritable. But the thing is, I'm human. This is only one small part of me. I am much more than MS. I am a mommy, I am a daughter, I'm a wife, I'm a nurse. I'm kind, I like walking, I like swimming, I like gallivanting as well. So that's all really important.
It's what life is at the end of the day.
It's real life. It's not stopping. It's just making the best of the hand of cards that we're dealt.
Well, you're representing the community brilliantly in that respect. Mary, a point on the talk, for instance, with the dietitian. People will reach out for certainty in times of doubt, and when you get a diagnosis of MS, it puts you and places you in that position of doubt and uncertainty and insecurity. But it is important that when you're reaching out for information, it's coming from places that are qualified, educated and reliable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where MS Ireland plays a role. And we always encourage people, get the facts right, get the valid information. And afterwards, because sometimes people might Google, and unfortunately they don't always get the best advice or information. So I think at least if people are armed with accurate, up-to-date information, then they're able to better, I suppose, decide what to pick and choose in relation to other. And I just want to, just to come in there, to pick up on something that Majella mentioned, David, and that is the importance of exercise also. And Majella mentioned that she likes to walk, and here in Tullamore we've been fortunate in getting lottery funding to run a Neuro Pilates class.
Very good.
It was really, really amazing. And really good for meeting like-minded people who, initially were very vulnerable and standoffish with each other. But I have met some really, really lovely people there, and their friendship is as important as the Neuro Pilates. And Catherine is amazing. She's a lovely woman.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to have the services of Catherine, the teacher, the physio who specialised in Neuro Pilates. And we really encourage people to avail of physiotherapy. Now, MS Ireland does actually provide some online physiotherapy, and that all stemmed from COVID. And then we discovered that a lot of people actually like to do it online because they can fit it into their schedule.
Sure.
And there are different classes for various symptoms. Some of the classes are geared to specific symptoms of MS. And because everything is depending on funding, I suppose, so we try, when we do have funding, we try to put on things like the Neuro Pilates for people.
there's a whole lot of ground that we've covered this evening, and if anybody wants to listen back to it, as ever, you can get the podcast of the show on midlands103.com or wherever you get your podcast. Look up Health and Fitness Midlands 103. If you want to reach out to MS Ireland, the Midlands Regional Office can be contacted by email midlands@ms-society.ie, or the website is ms-society.ie. You can phone the Midlands Regional Office on 090 647 1137. World MS Day is the 30th of May. Majella Heaven and Mary Leonard, thanks both of you for coming in to talk to us on the programme.
Thank you.
You're very
for
welcome.
giving us the opportunity. Thank you, David.
The legend that is Laz Malloy joins us next to talk about the Camino de Santiago.
Health and fitness with the all-new Midlands Park Health and Fitness Club, where relaxation meets rejuvenation. Find out more at midlandsparkhotel.com.
Midlands 103.
The Camino, it's renowned across the world for being a walk of sanctuary, of a spiritual awakening, a retreat for those trying to get away from the hustle and bustle of what we consider contemporary and modern life, and very much so in this country we have plenty of people who tend to go over. I'm joined on Health and Fitness this evening by a familiar voice to many and a familiar name to many, particularly in Offaly, former keeper for the Offaly football team, and one of our Midlands 103 analysts for Offaly GA, Laz Malloy. Laz, thanks so much for joining us here on the programme. Laz, you're just back from walking the Camino, and I know you've done it a few times before as well. How did you get on?
Yeah, well, you always come back very refreshed anyway. You know, it's a totally different experience, and it is everything you said it is, spiritual and so on, but it's great fun as well. And I suppose the biggest attraction to the Camino is the people that's on it themselves. There's a great modern word of energy, but there's a great energy about the people that's on the Camino. Most of them, all of them are there for a good reason, you know. Of course, a lot of people go there because they have troubles in their life or so on, but there's loads of people that has no trouble. They just go for the experience of it, and it's a great unwind. And the tracks are mostly through hilly land and forestry, and it's very tranquil, and a lot of flowing water and birds and so on. So you just get into conversations with different people, and it's generally very relaxing.
You mentioned the energy of people, and I find that particularly interesting because I imagine, not having done it myself, that we go over there with our baggage, literally, but also emotionally and personally. We go over there with our baggage, and it probably takes a few hours to shake that off. And when you do get into the environment, you relax. I imagine the energy of people kind of changes as you know, the first day progresses for you.
Yeah, well, sure, you know yourself, life in generally is fairly competitive, no matter what area of life you're working in. Yeah. But I know ourselves, we work in retail, and Frances was with me, my wife, and you don't feel you're under that much maybe pressure or strain, and maybe you're not. But I know Frances did say shortly into the walk, Lord, I feel a lot lighter already.
Right.
You know, so we basically left home behind us, and we're in almost a different zone then. Now, but I've never met anyone on the Camino, and we've been on four of them, that wasn't upbeat about it, you know. And it's not because they're great workers or they're there to get times or get personal bests or anything like that. It's just a very relaxing atmosphere. Now, of course, we have loads of lovely walks here in Ireland as well. But I think getting back to the Camino, it was the journey of St. James, and his body is in Santiago. Santiago is a lovely city. It's a very peaceful place as well, lovely old architectural and small little narrow streets, and the square. But it's normally very emotional for people, excuse me, when they reach the square and the walk down through the city into the square. It's all very special. I was in a group of 16, but we all had a big hug when we got there, and everyone was a great sense of, achievement, even though, as I say, it's not like personal best or anything like that when you're trying to be out jogging or running. Or it's just, we got here, and Ronan, my friend that sort of organises it, he said it's very like the pattern of life, you know.
Okay, how so?
Well, you're climbing. There's a lot of climbs on it, like.
Yeah.
Now, it's not like Croagh-Patrick to an extent. It's not as severe as that. People who are familiar with Croghan Hill, to me, if someone asked me, I said it'd be like if you walk 16 Croghan Hills in a row.
Okay,
you know, obviously you're going up, but then you're coming down the other side. But as soon as you're down, you have to start back up again. Ronan would say it's very much like life. Like life doesn't happen in straight lines. Like you won't be at the top all the time, but you know, some way you'll find that you won't be struggling all the time either. And
you get strength from being part of that group and coming to the end of it with that group.
Yeah, and we had there was different people from Cork and Dublin and Galway. With 3 or 4 from Offaly as well. A couple of good friends, Clara girls there on the job as well. But yeah, people, some people with great jobs and stressful jobs, some people maybe with illness, or some people go there to get over bereavements, and you know, but they're not going around with the tears in their eyes or saying poor me. It's just, I think it's there to find a bit of peace and, you know, and find their soul, I suppose.
What attracted you and Francis to the idea of doing it the first time?
Yeah, well, times had been difficult, as you know, with the collapse of the economy back in 9, 10 and 11, and we came through some pretty tough, scary times in business at that stage, as everyone else did. But Francis had it on her to-do list. Neither of us are very computer-friendly. And then one day I looked at the Tullamore Tribune and I saw an ad. Ronan Scully was looking for people to join him on the Camino. And to double up, it was for a very good cause, Self-Help Africa, a charity that he's involved in. And it's an agricultural charity as well, which charities had been getting some bad press at the time, you know, as how the money was used and one thing and another. But I did say it to Ronan, and he said, yeah, over 90% of it gets to the front line. So their charity, not to get sidetracked now, but their charity takes out seed potatoes and barley seeds and even dairy cows, and it's sort of their idea is teach them how to fish, don't give them fish, you know. So I was attracted to that as well.
Yeah, I understand.
I was attracted to that as well. And of course I knew Ronan, an All-Ireland medalist with Offaly in under 20 back so many years ago as well. So, you know, we had a lot in common that way. And the first time we went, there was only 5 of us on it. We hadn't met the other 3 people before, and we just gelled, and we had such a great time. We said, Francis, we'll do that again. That was the French way. That's the one coming down the Pyrenees. But when I say we only done 125k, it's the last section of it over 5 days.
That's the great thing, isn't it, about the Camino, is that people can take on the entire route or multiple different routes and be doing it for huge mileage, or indeed they can step in at a certain point and get their experience from it. Just to go back to when you decided to do it for the first time, you got in touch with Ronan and you're happy with everything, and then you know you're going. You know there's 3 people there that you don't know. There must have been a bit of trepidation about, like, what is this thing? You would have heard so much about it. At what point did you say to yourself, oh, I'm delighted I've done this?
Very, very, very early. Okay. Very early. Like Francis says, as soon as we get to the airport, we relax, because we know we've only to follow the leader, to follow Ronan, you know. But no, it's very relaxing, and it's not about 5-star hotels, or you stay in motels or maybe 2-star, but they're very clean. You have a shower area. The food is very basic, but it's enough.
Yeah, it's just what you need.
Yeah, and Ronan likes to do what they call the pilgrim meals, which are very basic, you know. But everyone's happy with that. And the main thing about it is it's not a race, it's not competitive. There's lovely little coffee shops along the way, sort of similar to the Bakehouse in Ballycommon, if you're familiar with that on the canal.
Yeah.
And you know, if you want to stop, you stop. If you don't, you don't. And then you find that people who's passed you out on the walk, when you get to the coffee shop, they're there, and then you pass them out. And but you're interacting with people from all over the world.
You're interacting with people. You're, I imagine, pretty plugged out of technology and mobile technology, your phone and all that. Yeah. And by the sounds of it, probably not consuming processed food for the first time in a while. That
absolutely.
That all must contribute to a sense of wellness, I guess, by the time you come out the other end of it.
Absolutely. The food is mostly locally produced. It's very like rural Ireland. Now, I know I give away my age, but 40 years ago, like it's like you see all the little kitchen gardens that with their small little patches of veg, and most of the time they have a few hens running around as well. Now, it's little farmyards that would make a little coffee shop out of convert their shed into a little coffee shop.
Yeah.
And it's bacon, eggs, like, and homemade bread. Sure, I mean, it's like what we were at 40 years ago in Ireland. And the Spanish people, I think, are very similar in mannerism to the Irish. They're very welcoming, and there's a lovely softness about them. They know you're there just to have a pleasant time. So there's very little friction, and you know, people don't get confused about waiting, or you know. And then of course the benefit of all the little coffee shops as well is there's facilities for the bathroom as well, which we all need as we go along as well. So you don't have any worries like that. Now, this time we were there Monday, the Saturday and Sunday. We started walking on the Saturday. There were pleasant, dry days. But we had 3 wet days there then. But it doesn't make any difference whether it's raining or not. You know, you just bring a tyre, and they have those capes out there. You buy them for €2.
And you've embraced the whole thing. So you're
not there to complain, like, you know.
Yeah.
But generally, you don't meet anyone that's complaining, and people are very good interacting as well. We had a lovely girl. She's the next nurse. Well, she must have brought half a pharmacy with her, like from plasters and sulfadines and stuff like that. So, like, if you're not a big walker, yeah, one day we done 33k, but it was over almost an 8-hour period where we stopped and started. So there would be little aches and pains, but sure, a Panadol or a sulfadine solves that, and away you go. The one thing I will say to you is,
go on.
The mind is a great thing. We knew we had to walk 5 days, so there was no complaint. We were up out of bed at 7 o'clock the next morning and on. But on the day we weren't walking, everyone said, "Oh God, I wouldn't be able to do another 22k today."
Wow.
You know, because your mind wasn't plugged in to walk the next day. It's amazing, isn't it, that it was switched off, that the body wouldn't be able to walk that day.
But it can prepare your body when you know that you do have to do these things.
Yeah.
It is remarkable. And look, I'm really grateful that you came in to tell us this story, because when I heard you'd done the Camino and I knew that you had done it before, I thought it was high time that we featured it on Health and Fitness. And Laz, it was a delight hearing about it from you, and it's motivated me maybe to have a look at it, because I think there's plenty to be said for taking yourself out of the world we live in, at least for a few days.
Absolutely. The body deserves it 2 or 3 times a year, I think, yeah.
All right, thanks for coming in to us.
Thanks very much.
7 stitches over the eye, 2 fractured fingers, a fractured wrist, bruises all over, and a world title. It was quite the night for one man from Ballyforan. He's with us next.
Health and fitness with the newly refurbished Midlands Park Health and Fitness Club. Refresh your fitness journey with dedicated personal trainers on hand to help you achieve your goals. Find out more at midlandsparkhotel.com.
Midlands 103.
Now, Ireland has always been very well regarded when it comes to the martial arts, but there was one particular thing that had not been ticked off by any Irish fighter, and that is to win a Waco Professional Kickboxing World title, Waco World Association of Kickboxing Organisations. Well, that box has very much been ticked, and it's been ticked by Gary McDonnell, South Ross Common kickboxer from Ballyforan. He joins us on Health and Fitness this evening. Gary, a massive congratulations. You've had a bit of breathing time since you did win the title earlier this month. What are your reflections on the success?
I'm just so happy that I got the opportunity to do this. It's been a long time coming. I've been training for 15, 16 years now, and anyone that knows me knows that it's not just a hobby for me, it's a way of life. I eat, sleep and breathe kickboxing.
When it comes to kickboxing and to compete at the world's level, it's a way of life for every fighter who gets in the ring, I presume.
Oh, definitely. The level of commitment and training that you have to do, and not just that, the travel so much. You definitely have to love it.
In terms of the fight itself, it was at least in Dublin against a Norwegian opponent. Talk to us about your opponent and how the fight went.
Yeah, no, the fight was in Dublin, and I don't often get to fight in Ireland. The majority of my fights take place outside of Ireland, so to get it on home soil was great. But yeah, my opponent, Henry McPherson, very, very good fighter, very skilled, very slick. The fight, it was a very tough fight, to be honest. I definitely have a lot of injuries from it. I actually fractured my hand in the 7th round, and then I got a cut above my eye from a clash of heads. I think it was the 9th. So yeah, it was definitely one of the toughest fights I've ever been in.
I find that very interesting because I was reading about the injuries you had. I've seen a picture of you shortly afterwards with the hand casted up. When it comes to the ultimate outcome where you've been crowned a world champion rather than losing a big fight, does that influence even how you feel that pain the next day and how you kind of live with that pain for a couple of days?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, to be honest, the pain was definitely worth it. To achieve something that I've set out to achieve since I started this sport, I'll take any pain for that.
Talk to me about the kind of work you do in preparation for a fight as big as this against a fighter as skilled as Henry. And, so obviously, are you preparing specifically for how he might fight, or are you very much focused on your own processes?
I suppose a lot of fighters they like to focus on what the other guy is doing, but I'm not one of those. I generally just focus on what I'm trying to do. So that's what I focus on. But in terms of training, so much goes into it. Like, I coming up to this fight since January, since I got this fight offered, I've been training twice a day, 5-6 days a week. So much preparation went into this.
In terms of putting in all that work, then, how were you feeling in the build-up? I imagine if you've with combat sports, so much of your psychological perspective is dictated by how you've prepared. So with all that prep, were you in a good spot psychologically going into the fight?
Yeah, definitely. I was in a very good spot going into the fight. I knew I put the hard work in, so I was very confident in my ability. The only thing that I will say is, because I don't fight in Ireland that often, the majority of my fights take place overseas. I don't really get that much support that come travel with me. So when the fight was on home soil and on the day of the fight, I actually got very, very nervous because so many of my friends and family had came up from Galway to support me. And I was just very nervous, but thankfully all the hard work paid dividend.
Yeah, it certainly did. Talk to us about the nerves again for a second, because it's understandable that this is, the best attended fight of your career in terms of support for yourself. When do the nerves leave your system then? Is it kind of a few seconds into that first round? What's that process like?
Oh, well, the nerves are there right up until I'm in that ring, and literally when the referee says go, it's just a natural reaction. The nerves, you just don't think about them anymore. They're gone, because all you're doing is you're focusing on the person in front of you and trying not to get hit.
Yeah, there's a great focusing of the mind when it comes to that then.
Exactly.
Kickboxing as a sport, what got you into it? How did you find it?
To be honest, it was a complete accident. I was a very shy kid, and my parents just wanted me to be a little bit more outgoing, so they put me into a taekwondo school. So I started doing a bit of taekwondo, and I ended up loving it. But taekwondo was light contact, and I just didn't really like that aspect of it. So I just seen a kickboxing flyer and just went into a gym and started training and just fell in love with it.
The training regime for kickboxing is pretty tough, and it's a real all-body workout in a lot of respects. I imagine when you started getting into it then, the sense of strength and fitness really took off.
Oh, exactly. Like I've always been very sporty. I've played loads of sports growing up, soccer, football, hurling, all that sort of stuff. But just kickboxing, the level of fitness that's required, I just think that people don't realize it's you can't like not put in a big effort. You have to train every day, like as well as it's not really a team sport. So if you don't do the training, it all falls back on you. Where I find with team sports, you can always rely on other people on the field. So it is a lot different. But look, I love it in that respect.
When you're putting in all the hours in the gym and you're putting the physical work in, then naturally you're going to perform better if you're on top of your nutrition as well. But I imagine because of how you'd be feeling in training if you weren't doing the nutrition thing properly, do you find it then kind of falls into place? You're motivated to eat well and say sleep well when you're into a very regular training regime?
To be honest, I'm like that all the time. I just like that feeling when I'm eating healthy and I'm training hard. So that's my life 24/7. To be honest, I don't really have off seasons. My off season where I'm not meant to be training, I'm still running or I'm still doing a bit of gym work. I'm always doing something. That's just my way of life.
Ultimately, that has long-term benefits, doesn't it? Because
Yeah,
you're going to perform better when you go back into competition if you've been doing well outside of it.
exactly. Like the last time that I was meant to be on a break there after Christmas, I was jumping in and doing a lot of 5K road races events, literally just because I was bored. Even though I was meant to be off training, but I go do something else.
What kind of times are you running for your 5K?
My PB is 17:5.
Okay, that's pretty sharp.
Yeah, very, very, very fast, to be honest, and especially for a non-runner.
Yeah, no, I could only dream of a 5K pace like that. The back to the sport at which you're a world champion now. I'm sure that doesn't sound too bad when I say it.
No.
the kickboxing career. Talk to us about where you're training, who you train with, and kind of the people in the background who've helped you to get to this level.
Yeah, so my main coach that I train back home with is a guy called Phelim Halligan, and it's in Claremorris kickboxing gym. It's basically just on the Galway Mayo border. So I train there 2-3 nights a week with him. Basically just doing pad work and technical sessions, and then he organises sparring for me. And then I'm also a part of the Irish national setup, so I have to go to Dublin quite a lot, training there as well. So when I'm in Dublin, I'm training with the Irish coaches. We have a few locations in Dublin that we usually train in, depending on the weekend. But yeah, so much goes into it. A lot of the coaches kind of are in the background and they don't get the recognition that they deserve because the amount of work that they put into us is massive. Like they give up their weekends, their weekdays, weeknights to come help us get better. So they definitely deserve a lot of credit for the success.
When people are involved in kickboxing, I think in gyms up and down the country as well, it's clear that there's a passion that drives them to be supportive and to be educational and to be guardians and role models, maybe over and above a lot of other sports.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's people would consider kickboxing a bit of a lonely sport because at the end of the day, it's just you competing in the ring. But when you're a part of like a gym, it feels like a family. So although you're alone in the ring, you're not alone while you're training. You have loads of support and you make so many friends through it. Like I have met so many cool characters throughout the years, like traveling. Like it's not many people that can say that they have friends in Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Ukraine, all these countries that I've just met. Even guys that I have competed against, and we're friends today, and we still keep in contact. So, although it would be considered a lonely sport, I wouldn't consider it that lonely.
No, and it looks like everything I hear from it as a martial art, it's always such a respect between competitors that you can be friends before and after these bouts and experiences. A final question then, Gary, is twofold. The first is, how are you feeling in terms of the injuries and the recovery, and what are you expecting will be next from you in terms of competition?
So yeah, the injuries are healing well. I got my stitches out of my eye there last week, and the cut healed very well. And my hand is on the mend, so I'm definitely going to be out for the next 5 or 6 weeks. Anyway, as the doctor was saying, I definitely can't punch with my hand. So, but I'm going to start back doing a little bit of training now on Saturday, just a bit of running, maybe just do a bit of gym work. Basically, obviously, I can't use my hand, but just anything that I can do just to kind of get back into the swing of things. And up next for me is I'm going to Finland I'm not sure the date, the end of July, the start of August, for an international training camp for a few days. And then it's the European Championships are coming back around in November. So I will be heading there to defend my European title that I won in 2022.
Yeah, European and World Champion. You'll be a marked man, I suspect. Very much appreciate you taking the time to join us on Health and Fitness this evening.
No problem. Thanks a million for having me on.
That's Health and Fitness for another week. As ever, it is my absolute pleasure to have brought you the show. Joe Cooney is on hand with Country Roads after the news at 8. Take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you soon.